Hails, Inner Warriors. Alex from Inner War Strength here. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about getting the most bang for your buck from your workouts. But before we get into that, check out this sick Reap hoodie, one of our best sellers. Get it from innerwarstrength.co. So, the chances are you are not a professional athlete or a professional bodybuilder or a powerlifter or a strongman or whatever it is. You're just a regular Joe Schmo like me who works a full-time job. Maybe you have a family, maybe you have hobbies, maybe you have like a side hustle, maybe you work multiple jobs as well. Um, maybe you've got a lot of stuff going on in your life, like most people, at least you should. Um, and training is essentially a luxury for most of us. It's a necessity, but it's also a luxury in terms of time, right? Now, everyone's time is finite, of course, and the older you get, the more aware you become of that fact, right? So when you have a lot of stuff going on, when you have a lot of plates spinning and you need to keep all of that stuff in check, you need to figure out a way to fit your training in your busy schedule. And oftentimes that means eking out an hour a day or something, or an hour or two if you're lucky. And in some cases, that means even just kind of eking out 20 minutes every so often, just to do a set of lunges or something. All right, whatever it is, you have to figure it out. But in terms of time in the gym, there's there's ways to be efficient about it. So, in terms of exercises, you need to be using the most effective and efficient exercises so you can min max the amount of time that you have in the gym. Min maxing, if you're not familiar with that term, means getting the most out of as little as possible, right? So, min max your training, what would that look like? Min maxing your training. That would look like doing highly efficient exercises for the least amount of reps possible, right? Now, um, so if you think of training and what your training should look like, you could think of it as like a meal. Okay. Now I've said this in previous videos as well. But your meal should be basically, you know, it doesn't have to be super fancy gourmet dish with, 10 different garnishings and, or like a fancy dessert with 10 different types of chocolate and fucking chili and, vanilla syrup and truffle oil or whatever. No, meat and potatoes. Just keep it super simple. Meat and potatoes, right? A good meal. There's nothing better than a nice thick steak and a baked potato or some mashed potatoes or whatever. That's all you need. Maybe some broccoli and a salad and all that stuff, sure, and all the accoutrement. But the core of it is just meat and potatoes. Okay. So your training should look like that. Every time you go to the gym, your training should consist of at least one compound movement, i.e., the squat, bench press, overhead press, or deadlift, and the potatoes, which is going to be some accessory work. Okay. But the meat of your training should be always a compound movement. Why? Because compound movements train the whole body. The hint is in the name, compound movement. All right. The squat is often mischaracterized as a leg exercise, but it's not just a leg exercise. The squat will train your entire posterior chain from your upper back, from your traps all the way down to your calves. All right. And it'll train your core, right? So your abdominals, your shoulders, your arms, everything, your traps. It'll train your entire body from your chin down. All right. Same with the overhead press. The overhead press is often also mischaracterized as a shoulder exercise. I have often said that the overhead press is not a shoulder exercise, but a glute exercise. And the reason I say that is because to be good at the overhead press, you need to squeeze your glutes every time you press. Um, and essentially, the overhead press trains your whole body again from your chin all the way down to your body, to your feet, because you need to be standing there rock solid with your with your quads engaged, your glutes engaged, your core engaged, and you're pressing overhead with your shoulders, your triceps. You're squeezing the bar with your hands, which are engaging your forearms and your biceps. Everything, it's a full body exercise. The bench press is not a chest exercise. The bench press is a compound movement. All right. When you bench press, you are using your whole body to press that weight off your chest. All right. At least you should be if you want to be doing it effectively. Right. I'm sure you've heard of the idea of, I'm sure you've heard of the term leg drive during the bench press. That's a thing. And there's a reason why it's a thing. Because when you bench press, you are also pushing your legs into the ground, which is, and squeezing your glutes, squeezing your quads, which is creating more stability in the bench. It's creating, pushing yourself back into the bench, which is creating more stability in your upper back. You are actively engaging your lats, actively pushing against the bar with your triceps, with your pectoral muscles, squeezing the bar, which is activating your brachialis muscle, your forearms, everything. So your whole body is involved in the lift. All right, again, from the chin down. And the deadlift, the king of the lifts. Anyone who's done a deadlift knows exactly what it feels like. You know that you feel that your whole body is involved in the exercise. No one's ever said that, a deadlift is a back exercise or a leg exercise. It's a full body exercise. Again, you're gripping the bar, you're pushing off the ground with your legs, but also holding your back steady, which means that your lower back and your hamstrings and your glutes are all engaged. Your lats are engaged as well, locking the bar in place. You're squeezing the life out of the bar, which is engaging your triceps, engaging your biceps, engaging your entire arm, basically, right? It's a full body exercise. So these are the meat of your training. They should be, at least. This should be the number one focus in every training session, right? The compound movements. Now, programming those is, it's a whole other ball game. And there's obviously, a million different variations of each exercise. Front squats, high bar squats, low bar squats, Zercher squats, zombie squats, sissy squats, Bulgarian split squats, whatever. I mean, there's all these other variations, but I consider those, the variations, um, I consider kind of accessory work, right? You want to be doing high bar squat or low bar squat as your main lift. I personally prefer low bar squat because it means I can get more of my hips involved in the lift, and just generally I get more of my muscle mass involved in the lift rather than emphasizing more of the legs. Anyway, that's another video for another time. um, Same with the deadlift. I prefer conventional. If you're a power lifter and you want to do sumo, knock yourself out, whatever. Um, but the point is, the compound movement should be the meat of your workout, right? You don't go to the gym. You shouldn't be going to the gym and doing, okay, today I'm going to do leg press, right? And then go home. No, but you can go to the gym and do a bunch of squats and go home, right? That's a much more effective workout than just going to the gym doing some leg press. All right. You can perfectly well go to the gym and do 3 sets of 5 heavy ass squats, 85% of your body weight, of your, not of your body weight, of your 1 rep max, and then go home, right? That's a solid workout. Literally, it's a solid workout. um and same with deadlift. You can go to the gym and do, like, one set of 5 on the deadlift at 85% of your 1 rep max, maybe 3 sets of 5 even, and then go home and say, yep, that was a good workout. Okay. On the bench press and overhead press, you'd probably do like 5 sets of 5, but whatever. So that's the meat, the compound movements, right? Every workout should be centered around one of those lifts. All right. Or maybe 2 or 3 or whatever. I mean, depends on your training capacity, depends on your own schedule. It depends on, it depends on a lot of things, but definitely include one of those lifts in your training if you want to get strong. So that's the meat side of things. What about the potatoes, right? So potatoes should be the accessories, right? Now, accessory work is basically any assistance exercise which aids in benefiting your main lift. Okay, so the accessory work that you pick should complement the main compound movement of the day. All right. So if I'm going to do a set of squats, okay, for my main movement, or like, a few sets of squats for my main movement, the accessory work I pick should support that squat. All right. So it wouldn't really make much sense for me to go into the gym and, do a bunch of squats and then do some bicep curls or tricep extensions. Wouldn't really make much sense. If you're going to be training the squat on the particular day, it's a good idea to do the accessories for that exercise on that day too, so that they don't impact your overhead press that you're going to do the next day, or the bench press that you're going to do the next day, or the deadlift you're going to do the next day. All right. So accessories. What does that look like? So that would look like things which are not necessarily compound movements. They can sometimes be compound movements, like maybe let's say a barbell row. I would consider that a compound movement because your whole body's involved in that. Even though it's less so than a deadlift, or a Romanian deadlift. But it could also be just isolation work. Okay, like for instance the barbarian split squats, right? Like Bulgarian split squats. That's one of my favorite accessory movements, and I do them every Friday religiously. It could be, for the squat, for instance, it could be leg press. Leg press is an accessory. It's not a main movement, right? It doesn't matter how much you can leg press. I don't care if you can leg press 800 pounds. I want to see how much you can squat. All right. Leg press, leg extensions, leg curls, all those kind of isolation exercises. Those are your potatoes. Okay. That's the side. Okay. For the bench press, it could be things like tricep extensions, uh, you know, bicep curls, wrist curls. Even wrist curls are incredibly underrated. Maybe I'll do a video about those. Rows, all kinds of different rows, dumbbell rows, barbell rows, T-bar rows, landmine rows, whatever it is. There's all kinds of different accessories. Now, again, because we're trying to min max our way through the workout, what are we going to do? We need to pick the most efficient accessories that we can. Okay. Now, what would that look like? So, I guess for everyone, it would be slightly different, but you want to prioritize two things. You want to prioritize the ability to load the exercise, so the ability to move as much weight as possible in that particular exercise, and stability. So being able to perform the exercise in as stable a fashion as possible, right? So for the squat, the idea is, doing a leg extension is pretty simple. I mean, you're sitting in a machine and just, extending your legs against the weight. That's it. It's pretty stable, right? It's not going to be, uh, there's not much to it, right? But, a leg extension by itself isn't a particularly, um, a particularly good accessory for the squat per se. It's just a good leg exercise. Okay. And if you're going to do leg extensions, you need to do leg curls. So that means, you can't do one without the other, which means that, you're going to have to do both, which means you're going to spend a little more time in the gym doing two different exercises, instead of doing one. So what would be a better exercise? Maybe I can do both at the same time. I don't know, maybe Bulgarian split squats. You know, you're getting some of the hamstring action, some of the glute action, and also the quad action too at the same time. Okay. Um, and if you really want to emphasize the hamstrings, then you do some Romanian deadlifts. Okay, because those you can load and they can be very stable. All right. So I'm just giving you some examples, okay, of ways to think about your training in terms of min maxing and getting the most out of as little as possible while you're in the gym, right? And using your time to your benefit, right? So getting the most bang for your buck out of your workout is crucial if you don't have much time, okay? Um, and the overarching point I'm trying to make is number one, focus on the compound lifts primarily, and accessory work should be secondary, okay? Number two, focus on effort and intensity rather than variety. Okay, so Bruce Lee once said something like, I fear the man who's practiced. Um, I fear the man who. I've got it now. I don't fear the man who's practiced, 10,000 kicks one time. I fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times, or something like that. Whatever. The general point is that keep it simple. If you repeatedly do, the squat, bench press, deadlift, overhead press, the compound movements, if those are like the core of your training, you're going to see a lot of progress because those are super efficient, and they will get you they will build strength, build muscle, the whole shebang. And you can really load them. You can really focus on effort and intensity with those exercises. And then accessories should support those main lifts. So again, focus on intensity and effort rather than variety, right? It doesn't matter if you did, 10 different exercises with like, just a piddling amount of weight. All right. What matters is if you did two exercises with a shit ton of weight, shit ton of intensity, and focus and effort, because you got the most out of it. All right. So keep that in mind next time you're training. Let me know what your favorite exercises are, what exercises you think are the most efficient, what exercises you think you get the most bang for your buck out of. Leave a comment below, like and subscribe. Go to innerwarstrength.co, buy some killer merch, and I will catch you in the next one. Later.